All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Can you all hear us? Live from the room where they keep the fire extinguishers.
Where there are no windows.
No windows. We're in a van down by the river. No, we're at Spring IO.
That's true.
Which is
a foodie conference.
It is a foodie conference. It is not a. They serve gasoline for coffee, and just so much energy,
Yeah.
But it's actually delicious tasting. It's just sludge, goes down your throat, and you're like, oh, that was a mistake. Josh, hey, hi Daniel, good to see you. Thanks for joining us, everybody. So anyway, we're at Spring IO, and it's a really good show. Are you having fun?
Awesome. I already learned really a lot.
Me too. And I try to keep up to date, and I still learn a lot every time I'm here. And the reason I know it's a good show is because it's in Barcelona, which is not just it is like one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
Indeed.
And yet we're still all inside.
Indeed.
Right. If it was any other show, I'd just be outside. Like I'd do my one talk and then leave. But here, man, it's so beautiful. So I'm really happy I was able to get you to sit down with me for a little bit and talk about what you're doing. Can you introduce yourself? Like, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? Yeah. Why not just become a rich, handsome billionaire instead?
I'm Ronald. I'm the creator of JobRunr. And yeah, it's a little bit my talk later on. I think like 4 years ago, I had a big problem with distributed processing in a small fintech company. And they told me it was greenfield, but they were already working for a year on it. And things just went wrong with microservices, no open telemetry, no micrometer, no distributed tracing. And then I said, okay, let's try to solve this. And I created this open source project called JobRunr. And then suddenly you interviewed me.
Yeah.
And then things started skyrocketing.
I don't think it was me. I think those things are around the same time, but they're not there's no cause and effect there, friend. Yeah. So, but at JobRunr, it solves the problem of scheduling jobs in the distributed context. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So why didn't you use Cron or BMC or AutoSys or what about the other one, the Q one?
The Quartz one.
Yeah, Quartz.
Yeah, well, I think the reason that I started it is because I wanted it to be really, really developer friendly.
Yeah.
So you just give it a Java 8 Lambda, and then automatically we will analyze your Lambda, save it in a SQL or NoSQL data store.
Right.
And different background job servers will start processing the job.
Nice.
And the reason that I really think the Java community and the Spring community likes it that much is because you don't need any other tooling. It's just one jar that you add, and automatically we will do all the rest for you, like leader election, the distribution of all the jobs, making sure that it only runs on one server.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so it really is. The simplest version of the API is just like using a thread pool. Kind of, you submit a job.
Yeah.
It's a Lambda, and then suddenly it's if you have like a Lambda that says system out print line hello world, you open up the console and another machine running the JobRunr background processor thing, right?
Yeah.
And it shows hello world, right? Magic. It just, I don't know how it works. It just does. You don't even have to care. Just so smooth. And you've got also nice integrations with Spring Boot, which I quite like, right?
This is like something which was really not that hard to add. So if you look at the Springboard project and the Spring Boot initializers, they're all the code is there, and you can just take a look and see how it's done. And it wasn't that hard to add.
Well, because you had a really simple API, so it was not like it almost feels like there's not really a need for all that extra stuff. But when you get into like integrations with the Spring SPIs, then it starts to become kind of useful. Maybe using the Spring provided data source and that kind of stuff.
Not only that. Typically, what I see is you want to have your job. It's typically a service that you already have,
right?
And they're all just beans.
Right.
And you want to auto-wire your existing beans into the jobs to use them. And so let's say that you have an emailing service. Well, what I do is I ask the Spring IRC container, hey, give me the emailing service.
Right.
And for that, the starter works
so
really
good.
nice.
And also you have this console that people can use.
The dashboard.
The dashboard.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I mean, I'm surprised you give that away. Like, it's really, really useful. Can you tell people what that is?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned earlier on, we didn't have any view, any traceability, any logging for those jobs in that fintech company.
Yep.
So I decided, we need to have something. And
so you can look at all the jobs in the cluster.
Yeah, you can see all the jobs in the cluster, and it comes with live updates. So you can even do, if you have SLF4J and you're using SLF4J, you can have per job logging to the dashboard, and it will automatically update.
Oh God. Okay, and you can actually send data to these jobs as well. Like I can send a parameter or something like that.
Of course. It's just a lot now. All the perhaps really important to know is we use checksum really heavily.
Yeah.
Great product for JSON serialization.
Of course.
Comes by default also in Spring Boot, so it makes the starter really easy. And what happens is that any parameter that you pass to your job, we serialize it to the database as JSON, and that way it can run on a different server.
Oh, so good. So that's amazing. Okay, so you've got this like incredible technology. It's easy enough to. There's 3 roles, right? You've got the dashboard, you've got the client, and you've got the runner.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What are these like? And they're all starters. They're all delivered as just Spring Boot starters. You just add to the class path, and so
it's one starter even.
Starter.
It's all but we integrate with the Spring application properties.
Oh right.
YAML.
Of course.
So these are just feature flags that you enable, and if you're using build tags, you make a Docker container out of it, you can really easily enable it using the environment variables. So you just have the same jar that you deploy in different, how must I say, zones of your the website and the background. And depending on that, the feature flags, you enable it or not.
So good. So what is the I think a lot of people are used to writing web services, and in this case, you've just got all the stuff happening in the same web service, or if you're writing a monolith, everything happens in the same code base. Why do I need this JobRunr? What is the use case there? And well, it's not just about scheduling, surely, because I could just do that in the same monolith.
Indeed. Well, many reasons. One, my primary reason is I'm also a big fan of Spring monoliths.
Yeah.
So I really am a big fan of modular monoliths and just having the monolith doing its work. But also there, in that case, sometimes you have a huge load of jobs coming in. And what you then do is you just scale up the amount of pods running your application, for example, if you're running in Kubernetes.
Yeah.
And automatically, JobRunr will start processing millions of jobs a lot faster because,
aggressive consumer pattern. Work stealing.
Indeed.
Okay, so it's about parallelism across workloads, and it also like what are some of the use cases though? Like I imagine parallelism kind of speaks to itself, but if it's a small thing that I could just do in a method in the hot path of my web request, I don't need this, right?
No.
So maybe it's like I want to send a confirmation email or do a report or resize an image or
It's like anything that may fail, for example, externally. Let's say that you want to do image resizing and you're using an external web service for that.
Yeah.
What if that fails? Or you want to send an email and it's really important that the email is sent. Well, if your job fails, we will automatically retry it 10 times for you with an exponential backup policy.
Right.
So that results in, if your job fails, only after 10 times you will see it as failed on the dashboard, because in the meantime, JobRunr retries automatically.
And can you then you can then look at the dashboard, get the logs, get the output, and see what happened, and resubmit it or change a parameter or something?
Yeah, you see the exact stack trace, you see what's happened, why it happened. And the other thing, I think, why we have some companies is that they want to deploy in the cloud, of course.
Of course.
But they have customers running things on-prem.
Yeah.
And they want to have like one and the same thing, so they cannot use GCP specific things or AWS, and then they have the same code base. And
or even Kubernetes. Like Kubernetes has a cron job, but
Indeed.
if you're doing 2 different federated Kubernetes clusters, it's going to be very difficult
Indeed.
to have visibility across those.
Yeah.
But also, it's also a pain in the butt to get a Kubernetes because you have to deploy the YAML for that thing. Whereas if you just say, I've got this Java process, it happens to have JobRunr on it, I'm just going to deploy a lot of them, and they'll just be there and they'll take the work up as the work becomes available.
Indeed.
You know, that's so good. And one of the things I'm really interested in is the scale down. What does that look like? Like, can I just kill JobRunr instances?
You can kill JobRunr instances, but we're not yet there to scale to 0. We need scale to 1 because
you gotta have a control node.
Yeah, indeed. It's like in Kubernetes, a control plane. We have one node that needs to keep running to see are there any recurring jobs that need to happen. Are there any jobs that are scheduled that we need to run now, and then any other nodes can take that on if there are jobs.
This is really good. And by the way, I wrote a system that used workflow, right? So there's like, we have a project called Spring Batch. Spring Batch is great for doing batch processing.
Indeed.
And people, the first question they ask is, okay, but how do I schedule it? Usually people think of batch and the scheduling as a part of the same concerns. We don't. We just provide the batch. Scheduling is completely up to you. You can use cron, you can use BMC, you can use
scheduled annotation,
Quartz. You can use that scheduled in Spring, which is, you know, we tell people that's not your production solution for anything that you want to be durable, right? There's a lot of different ways to do it. And of course, you can use JobRunr, which I think is a great fit. So, like, you know, people are like, if you want to run your batch job, use something like JobRunr to make sure it gets run at a certain time, or in a repeating interval, or even in 10 seconds from now, or just run it right now, but do it somewhere else so it's not taking from the thread pool that I have right now.
Yes, you know, it's not blocking the web thread.
Right. So this is a huge win. It's just very simple too. You know, it doesn't feel like I'm using a distributed system. I'm just launching a message. I'm sending a request with an object, which is a thread or a message or Lambda. You know, so it's natural. So all that works. It's open source. Is it?
Of course.
What license?
It's LGPL. So feel free to use it in a commercial context.
So forgive me for being indelicate, but how do you feed yourself?
Well, no, I'm happy you asked a question. I have 3 kids to feed also.
Yes, that's important, I feel like.
Yeah, and that's why I originally created the Pro version. And the idea was, this all started like a hobby project. And I thought with the Pro version, if I get a customer, I can take my wife out for dinner, for example.
That would be nice.
It would be nice. But then, suddenly this thing started growing and growing. And
So the Pro version, tell me about that, because that's really cool.
I
want people to buy the Pro version.
The Pro version adds a lot of extra features, like the dashboard is really improved in that one. You can search for all your jobs. Let's say you have a job with a certain customer, and the job failed for that customer, and you want to quickly find it. Well, you can find it in the dashboard. In fact, there is this one company where the developers were so convinced about JobRunr that they put a trial into production, and they said to their managers, look, this saves us 20% development time, because now first-line support can just find the job that went wrong, look for the customer ID, requeue it, and often it's solved.
Yeah, there's ephemeral. That's a good point. Like with batch, you learn retries are super important.
Indeed.
Because it might just be an ambient web service glitch, or it might be network latency, whatever. It might just resolve itself. It happens more often than people realize. The internet is a house of fragile cards, you know.
Indeed. So, and they went then to their manager and said, look, you have 14 more days to pay this guy, otherwise our production system goes down. It was the easiest sell ever for me.
They did the work for you. I love that. That's great.
Indeed.
That's cool. That's really cool. And also you have, like, I think I saw distributed transactions, right? I don't like JTA, but if you need JTA and there's no other way to do it, then you need it. And it's really cool that you have it, right?
It's also in the Pro version.
Yeah, of course.
And then perhaps this is something close to my heart, what we're working on, what we talked about lately in DevOps France. We're currently adding carbon-aware scheduling.
Wait, which kind of aware?
carbon. So
Carbon aware.
carbon aware.
Carbon monoxide, like the
Dioxide.
yeah, dioxide, like so the
global heating
Yeah.
gases. So what we want to do is, let's say that you have a cron job that needs to run every night, but
Sure.
you don't care when it happens. It
just before midnight.
or before the shops open from
Right.
And 7 o'clock in the morning before midnight. Well, what we are going to do is using information from the European energy providers, for example. We are going to look when is the best moment to schedule that job so that it has like the least amount of impact on our beautiful planet.
Oh, wow. And so that's only for Europe right now, but
Yeah.
I'm sure if you could plug in, if we had a similar data repository for other geolocations, you could make it work for that as well, like an adapter.
Indeed. And that's the whole thing. And now we're also talking to Azure, Google, AWS to have like, hey, do you have a forecast on your 24-hour next energy consumption? Because if we have that, then we can do it even per data center and optimize it as much as possible.
Wow, that'd be amazing. And that's also one of those things where it's like, you might actually even save money because there's not as much demand on the grid, so your energy provider will probably charge you less.
Yeah.
So it's not just about money. It's not just about saving the planet, which is first and foremost, I think, but also it's just a better deal for everybody. It's actually a better deal for you too.
Indeed, that's the fun part about being here at Spring.io. I also talked to Abdel, who is from Google, and he told me about spotless VMs now.
What's that?
A spotless VM is a VM that you can have only for 10% of the cost for the next 24 hours. So that's like, because they have too much hardware and energy available, they say here it's better to give them away at a smaller price. And this is something we're going to look into, of course.
You're becoming the meta scheduler. That's really cool. But that is super, super important, you know? And I don't want to think about my software deployments in terms of the Kubernetes cron jobs or something so low level. And I certainly don't want to manage the global distributed state across multiple services and nodes or multiple clusters. So JobRunr is giving me all that, and it's doing it so that it's more efficient and cheap. That's such a nice job, sir. Well done. When does that stuff become available?
We hope to have it released before DevOps Belgium. So we're currently working hard on it, and we have the fun part is that there is an external Belgian company called Mindwave who is also collaborating with us on that. So it's I love the community we are having in the Java world.
Are you in which part of the world are you in?
Belgium, Europe.
Right.
Yeah.
So you should just call it DevOps My Backyard.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay.
I can throw a rock to DevOps Antwerp.
Not that you would, but you could.
I could.
I can't wait to see you there. Maybe they'll invite me. Maybe they'll let me come this year. I don't know.
Quite sure.
You never know. But I can't wait to see you there. And I think people who are interested in getting their software into production easily and quickly and in a reliable way should definitely check out JobRunr. Where do they go to do that?
Well, 2 places. The GitHub repo, of course, which can be found at github.com jobrunner/jobrunner, or our website with tons of documentation, jobrunr.io.
JobRunr, JOBRUNR.io. All right, and of course, is it on the initializer, Spring initializer?
No, not yet. We should. This is perhaps the perfect time to ask. We should work on it.
Yes, but there are already starters, so just find the documentation.
Yes.
And also the starters provide GraalVM support.
Yes.
Right? And they provide integration with Spring, and it's just everything you know about working with middleware in Spring is there. So it'll be natural for people.
Yeah. Just add the Maven dependencies to the Spring Boot starter, and everything is working out of the box.
Right. And we got some good questions here. Any events planned for Berlin?
I don't know. Perhaps.
If you know of somebody that needs somebody to talk about distributed systems in Berlin,
I
know the guy you should talk to. Right. Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay. Well, this is fun. Thanks everybody. Thank you, Ronald. Appreciate you, buddy.
Anytime.
Bye, everybody. Stay tuned. I'll be doing more live streams here from Spring.io in Barcelona.